Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of The Gavel, featuring attorney Ana Toledo. Ms. Toledo is the senior attorney and general counsel to Targeted Justice. She has a background in constitutional and environmental law and is an experienced litigator, including 2 cases at the U.S. Supreme Court. And here's Ms. Toledo.
Welcome, everyone. Please excuse my delay. As you know, when you are a victim of government weaponization, even if you plan for the best, sometimes the worst happens. But it doesn't matter because I'm here. I made it. And so I want to welcome you to episode 46 of The Gavel. I am your host, Ana Toledo, an experienced attorney with more than 30 years litigating civil rights, First Amendment, environmental cases, all mostly in the benefit of people that are the underdog, people that are the oppressed. And my mission now is not any different from that. My mission now is a mission for freedom for all victims of government weaponization. My goal with this podcast and with my mission in Washington, D.C., where I have moved to, is to expose the government criminality in all levels of the executive and even judicial branch against these victims. I ask that you kindly please share, like, and subscribe because it's the only way we can defeat censorship. As you know, we are severely shadow banned, severely throttled. And it is through your sharing of this that we can maybe pierce those walls of censorship that keep us at bay. I want to start the podcast today with something that came to me as I was getting ready. And so give me 1 second. We are in the, in many Catholics celebrate Holy Week, and it is very appropriate to think, to remember how Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing." And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. For us, it is a very hard thing to realize that we have to forgive. We have to start working the talent of forgiving people, because when our freedom does come around, we're going to have to do a lot of it. Because when those prohibited access files, we force their exposure, and we force the criminal FBI to open that vault and give us the evidence of how they have destroyed our lives. It'll be our turn to forgive a lot of people. So even though I had another Bible verse in my script for today, I had to, that one just came to me because that's exactly what we have to think of. And I really hope and ask that God cover this space, shield this space. Let me make sure I have your comments here. So just bear with me because it was a little accidental getting to where I am right now. So first thing I want to share with you is the Targeted Justice newsletter that, as you know, our beloved volunteer Sean, and I'm sorry, I didn't have time to put it up. He prepares for us every week. And for those of you that didn't get to read, there's a lot of good things happening in the Targeted Justice newsletter. And I really want you not only to keep it up, but also I created a Spanish version of it, and I'm going to be unveiling it soon. Our vice president for Argentina, for Latin America, is going to be collaborating with it. So here is the newsletter.
Last week in our newsletter video, when we spoke about the book, Auditory Effects of Microwave Radiation, the editor made a mistake on the author's name. It was stated that the book was written by Justin C. Lin when it was actually James C. Lin. The editor apologizes for the error and any issues this may have caused. And now, on with the show.
This is a signal analyzer. It is currently displaying the top 5 frequencies while being held close to the face of a government weaponization victim. These particular frequencies are typically used for subliminal messaging. You can purchase a signal analyzer online for $110. The signal analyzer has found continuous readings directed at the nose and sinuses. Through Targeted Justice's research, this is a handheld log periodic antenna. This device can show you which direction the signal of the frequencies are coming from. Point the antenna in different directions, and the antenna will begin emitting a loud signal. When we used the antenna, it showed that the origin of the signal was coming from a local cell tower that was about 1.5 miles away. We had the TI change locations twice, without having them bring their cell phone, and it was the same frequency signal from the same cell tower. Targeted Justice has previously identified these frequencies being used for V2K and possibly subliminal messaging.
In the Epstein files, there are hundreds of pages documenting the use of directed energy weapons and mind control technology. This is good news for the TI community. The more that the Epstein files come out, the more of our targeting will be exposed.
Be on the lookout for hacking attacks on X. Be careful on which links you click on. These links will usually ask you to vote for someone in a podcast, and it will ask for your X account name. Do not give them your account name or any personal information. This will cause your account to lock up, and you will not be able to access it. Several members in the TI community have been affected by this. Be safe out there.
The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act program allows the government to spy on Americans' communications without a warrant. It's been abused in the past to target journalists, peaceful protesters, elected officials, and victims of government weaponization. Write a letter to Congress to stop warrantless spying on Americans, and you can even edit the text. Reform Section 702 and end the mass warrantless surveillance.
In the biblical story, David and Goliath, there were several soldiers who were scared to take on a giant known as Goliath. He was taller, stronger, and way more menacing than what the soldiers are familiar with. However, a shepherd boy named David not only stood up to him, but defeated this behemoth with using only a slingshot and a stone. How could a boy, who was an untrained soldier, not only was able to take down Goliath, but was fearless at the same time? What did he possess that the rest of the cowardly army didn't? We all have our own giants that we have to contend with in our own lives. Challenges and difficulties placed in our paths that stop us from reaching our goals. For a lot of TIs, it's easy to say that the targeting program is our Goliath. Just like Goliath, it can instill fear in us, not only make us quit, but not even attempt to take on this challenge at all. It seems more comforting to live in fear than risk making our lives worse if we make any form of effort to fight against it at all. However, the secret that many of your enemies do not want you to know is that they are not as threatening as they like you to perceive them to be. Think about it. Why spend so much time, money, and effort on torturing an individual that isn't a high-profile figure and, on the surface, wouldn't pose much of a threat? These criminals tend to pursue whistleblowers and citizens who aren't easy to succumb to temptation and corruption. This is a threat because they are not able to control you like others, and you have no worries on shining a light on any corruption that you may see going on. Targeted Justice has a page that provides countless information that shows you how you can properly expose your targeting and minimizes your harassment. It's time to face your Goliath and take him down. The best news is, you do not have to do it alone.
Calling all digital warriors. Please repost, share, and like this video on all social platforms. We still need volunteers. What skill sets do you have? Tell us by emailing tjustice2@proton.me, and in the subject line, put volunteer. Enjoy what we do? Want more? You can go to Rumble to catch live shows and replays. Do you know Targeted Justice has its own store? Buy something for yourself or give it to that special someone. You can buy different clothes, merchandise, and etc. by going to the following links. Please consider donating to our site or send a check. We're a non-profit organization, and donations are tax deductible. Every little bit helps. Thank you again for watching this video. God bless. God bless. God bless. God bless.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And I do want to tell you that, for example, I get followed everywhere, and the Lighthouse just gave me a really good suggestion, which I knew about, but like he said, just carry flyers with you and go up to the person, say, "Are you following me? If not, okay, here's a flyer. I think you want to see it," without being confrontational, being very peaceful, because of course, and if you can wear a body cam, it's even better. This week I had the great experience that I gave out this Richard taught me this, to have the B2K flyers. It's not, you're not crazy, it's a torture tactic. And I gave some money to a homeless guy with the flyers, and he walked away reading it, and then he ran back to me and said, "This is true." I'm like, "Of course it's true, that's why I'm telling you." And it just feels so good to see their face saying, "I'm not crazy. I knew I wasn't crazy." So I urge you to carry in your car, keep flyers, because they're really, really good idea. Okay, so just buckle up, because this week, even though, senators went on their vacation, and they have been, pictures of them have been being posted online about how they're having these great vacations, what they didn't fund part of the government, right? Well, there's really good things happening, and I just have to pick the most important ones for you. So please like, share, and subscribe so that other people get to find out what's going on. So in France, I don't know who of you have seen this, but the Masons, the gang stalking Masons, have been exposed. So there are two great cases that are going on, and I'm going to talk to you about those cases right now. The first one is a Masonic lodge that was transformed into a mafia-like network. The scandal broke on July 24th, 2020 in Créteil, France. This Monday, 4 days ago, the trial against 22 criminals began in France. It is supposed to last until July. They have a different system there where they put all the 22 defendants together on trial. And so it's related to this Masonic lodge involved in gang stalking and murder. But you see, Lighthouse had always told me that the targeting program outside of the United States, it's not only of the charts. Sometimes they just break the rules. They're not supposed to murder people, right? So I think that the trial stopped because France is still, despite the Muslim invasion, it's still a very, very Catholic place. So from Wednesday on, people don't do anything. But I think it'll continue on Monday. And I'm going to be on top of this, because get a load of this. 13 defendants face life in prison, including 4 military personnel, 3 police officers, one of whom is a retired intelligence officer, a security guard, and 2 business executives for multiple criminal offenses. Now follow me here. The alleged ringleaders are Jean-Luc Bagur, Frédéric Vaglio, and Daniel Beaulieu, all members of the lodge. Alongside Beaulieu's right-hand man, Sébastien Leroy, accused of carrying out or organizing the violence. This was like the real criminal mafia guy. Through a network of hired attackers. All 4 face life imprisonment if convicted. The case was triggered by a failed contract killing in July of 2020. There in the screen, you see the victim who they were supposed to kill, okay? 2 members of France's parachute regiment were arrested in possession of weapons near the home of Marie-Hélène Dini, who she's a business coach. And that's her, the blonde woman. You see, she follows the pattern of the 2/3 of targets that they are middle-aged women. Why? Because as we know, this program has been designed mostly for women that live alone, they're divorced or widowed. because, like in the Middle Ages, the tradition is to call women crazy. And this follows the pattern. You have to remember also that I discussed it here. The other middle-aged woman who is also a victim of government weaponization, but I guess she doesn't realize it. Her name is Giselle Pellicot, and she was incapacitated by her handler husband, who would offer her in rape and videotape her. So this is going on in France. I urge all the French TIs to try to contact this attorney and try to meet with them and tell them, I have information for you. Direct them to the Targeted Justice website. Well, so here's what happened. Investigators discovered a link to Bagur, who is 69, the lodge's venerable master, the chief of the lodge, and a business coach rival of Dini. So he was a business competitor of Madame Dini. Investigators say that Bagur asked the fellow Freemason Vaglio to arrange to have her eliminated for a fee of 70,000 euros, which is around $80,000. And you have to ask yourselves, isn't this CIA money funneled through NATO? This is what Madame Denise attorney has to look into. Because these people, yeah, they're millionaires. But if you're a business coach and you're paying to kill your competitor, well, maybe your business is not doing that well. So where were those 70,000 euros coming from? And I'm absolutely certain that all roads lead to the CIA. Mason Vaglio, the 53-year-old entrepreneur, allegedly acted as the intermediary between the alleged ringleader, the chief of the Mason Lodge, and a hit squad led by Maison Beaulieu. By Mason Beaulieu. Yeah, they're both, they're all Masons here. A retired officer of the Domestic Intelligence Service. Notice, they're police and intelligence people. Now watch for this curious allegation. One of the criminals, two of the military personnel arrested, told the investigators that they were manipulated. That they believed they had been asked to murder Madame Denis on July 24, 2020, on behalf of the French state. So these people thought they were mind controlled, they were manipulated. They admitted to the authorities that they were manipulated to think that Madame Denis was a bad person, that she was a Mossad agent, and that they were doing something good for France. So that is no different from what they tell the Citizen Corps minions over there. They're so dumb, they believe that we are criminals and terrorists. And that's how they, in their mind, justify their crimes against victims of government weaponization. Oh, they don't understand that there has to be an accusation, a trial, a conviction, and a sentencing. No, they are vigilantes that take justice into their own hands, and they don't even corroborate, because the criminals that listen into our conversations, they don't go to their boss and say, let me see the probable cause that justifies that I am listening to this person's conversation. They don't bother to do that because they're that dumb. Yeah, that's a requirement to work at the FBI, to be an IQ of 100 or less. Well, Marie-Hélène, going back to the Masons here, because this is really important, because this case could unleash huge exposure of criminality, not just for this lodge, but for the Masons as a whole. Marie-Hélène is not a spy. Rather, she has an enemy within her professional field, who is the chief of that Masonic lodge, which, by the way, since then has been closed. Why? Because the Masons are not stupid. They want to eradicate all the evidence. They want to eliminate all the membership that could have testified against these criminals. So she is just a leader in the coaching industry. She is the leader of the Athanor Masonic Lodge, also was a weapons collector. And the lodge was located in a sector close to the Paris business district called La Défense. Since then, it was officially closed on February 4th, 2021. So for 70,000 euros, Jean-Luc Bagrouer, now 69-year-old, entrusted the mission of eliminating his competitor to another brother, Frédéric Valliot. Okay, so Mr. Beaulieu, now 72 years old, and having transitioned into the field of corporate intelligence, was, prior to his arrest, leading a perfectly compartmentalized life, double life, shared between two partners he had been with for 20 years. So he had two different partners, and each one didn't know that the other one existed. Sounds like an uncle I had in Puerto Rico. Oh, but that's another story for another post I will write, because that one was really good. Anyways, within the Hatan or Lodge, he became the intermediary. Now, the network's missions, most of which were assigned to Mason Beaulieu by Valliot, escalated. They started being like, bad petty crimes until they even carried out murder. They had the assault and theft of a computer by a fake pixel delivery driver, the torching of a car, dead rats left in a garden, the planned elimination of Hassan Touzani, a yellow vest trade unionist deemed troublesome by a business executive, and they even culminated in the assassination of a racing car driver, Laurent Pascali, over a debt collection dispute. That was the first homicide mission assigned to Sébastien Leroy, Mr. Beaulieu's enforcer, okay, who also faces a potential life sentence. That was in November of 2018. Leroy shot and killed Laurent. Now, during the police custody, this security guy, he was an avid espionage enthusiast, admitted to carrying out most of the assaults and thefts, and that he had been manipulated. Sébastien Leroy explained himself 5 years ago, and he will continue to testify in the trial, said his lawyer. It is first and foremost a group of individuals consumed by a sense of omnipotence. Doesn't that ring a bell? What these criminals do to us. Observes Dylan Slama, counsel for Hassan Touzani, who states that he has many questions to put to the accused. I'm going to be just watching this, like a TV series. Now, everyone, in this case, the attorney for the principal victim says his name is Jean-William Vessinet. He says that in this case, everyone plays into others' psychological hold. It was a complete psychological operation, not what they did to the victims, but even amongst themselves, they operated as a psychological operation to get the others to do what they wanted to do. Miss Denise said, I was very lucky. It allowed for the prevention of a number of other actions, but it had heavy consequences on my life. She has PTSD, and she's probably continues to get gang-stalked by other sectors of the boots on the grounds that operate in France. Now, one of the perpetrators, one of the criminals, tried to kill him, supposedly, sort of like Epstein, try to kill himself, Mr. Beaulieu. He says that he may struggle to answer the questions posed to him because he supposedly tried to kill himself while in custody. I think it was that the criminals probably did something to him because they don't want him to testify as to the truth of what really motivated him, what was really behind this criminal program. Anyways, so I think this is Mr. Vessinet, the lawyer, says, what my client found terrifying is the fact that the key figures in this case, police officer, former intelligence agents, and Freemasons, are precisely the people who are supposed to act for the good of society. And that is exactly what happens to us. That, at least I know in my case, when, the people around me, they were like, okay, let's report it to the FBI. The FBI is running the clown show in Puerto Rico. Yeah, the CIA too, but you go to them and they're not going to. They are the criminals running the clown show. So who are you going to report to? And that's what the attorney very well sets forth. He says these are the people that are supposed to be acting to protect society, and that is exactly what we're going to expose. That the people that have been vested with the responsibility of protecting us are the ones that are intent on destroying our lives. Now, the current Grand Master of the Masons, which I didn't know, but I learned that it started in France, was elected in October 2023. And in a speech in 2025, Macron was just praising the lodge and saying, oh, how they lead a vital battle for humanity's good. So if this case doesn't get derailed by the CIA criminals, I anticipate that it's going to unleash a lot of information that is going to be very useful for us in exposing at a European level and even here in the United States, because we know these Freemason criminals are here in the United States as well. So this is really good. Now, the second lawsuit, which is huge, and it was filed on December 23rd, 2025, but it was only unsealed in late March, is the following. It's a lawsuit in California. And what I think it is that it's a security firm, right, that was dedicated to doing all sorts of dirty tactics as gang stalkers, as organized stalking, as torture, the whole psyops. But in this case here, the allegations point to the fact that they were hired by the United Arab Emirates to perpetrate their misdeeds. And this I'm going to read to you. I'm going to be very strict with reading to you from what was alleged, okay? The lawsuit was filed by Ansaf Ali Mayo against former executives and employee of Spear Operations Group, a U.S. private military company. One only has to wonder how many of these there are operating here in America. For war crimes, crimes against humanity, and attempted extrajudicial killings. Does this sound familiar? Pay attention. Committed as part of an alleged assassination for hire scheme that has been unsealed. Ali Mayo, a Yemeni citizen and parliamentarian, is represented by the Center for Justice and Accountability. This is an amazing organization that fights torture and crimes against humanity. I urge you to look it up. Center for Justice and Accountability. So it was recently unsealed. It was filed in the Southern District of California, San Diego Division. And this criminal organization operated out of a mansion worth $7 million. They generated revenues of $1.5 million per month, $40,000 per operator, and bonuses per assassination. Then the allegations are the following. The people that own the corporation were defendants: Abraham Golan, an Israeli-Hungarian dual citizen, founder and CEO of Spear Operations Group. He allegedly ran the program from the 7 Million Rancho in Rancho Santa Fe in the San Diego area. Isaac Gilmour, former U.S. Navy SEAL, served as Chief Operating Officer. How are you a U.S. Navy SEAL and then you dedicate your life to harming people? I just don't get it. The other defendant, Dale Comstock, former U.S. Army Special Forces operator, Green Beret. Yeah. The now dissolved company, Spear Operations Group, LLC, is referenced throughout the complaint, but is not listed as a defendant. So what they allege here is that these people, these tactical consultants, did a private operation of United States trained these elite operators at a massive cost. The operators go private. The foreign governments buy their services. Operators use U.S. legal cover while executing foreign government hit list. Victims have no recourse except a lawsuit a decade later. Of course, you have no recourse. You go to the FBI, they're going to ignore you because they know that these guys are doing these bad deeds. The system that trained them takes no responsibility. Now, this is not just a rogue contractor story. It's an accountability crisis. There is no accountability in this country. We thought Kash Patel would go in the FBI and he promised a declassification of documents. He promised accountability. And all we get are his hack pictures of him smelling cigars in Cuba, because that's all that has been exposed. It's really sad for the victims of government weaponization that really had a hope in him. And let's just hope that things improve, because they have to. Anyways, the next thing that, and this one, it seems, you know how I say sometimes like bad things, really there's something good behind the bad thing. Well, the journalist, Steve Baker, was fired from the Blaze. And the way he says is, my muzzle has been removed. The Blaze, as you know, is the newspaper that published his article regarding the January 6th pipe bomb. I personally think that Steve Baker, who is an excellent journalist, is in that 75% of TIs that don't know that they're targeted. You might remember the story that he published the story of the pipe bomber, and then the Blaze retracted it. So, and I'm going to tread very carefully here, because the woman that he named as the pipe bomber has hired these attorneys that she could not afford with her salary, because these are $2,000 an hour attorneys. And I heard it today, Mr. Baker say on a podcast that, you know, it's the CIA very likely paying for it, because she's currently a CIA employee. So let me just review for you. Mr. Baker was arrested when he was about to publish his findings on the pipe bomber. He was arrested on March 1st, 2024. He was thrown in jail for 4 misdemeanor charges related to January 6th, even though he was there as a journalist. And he was released on his own recognizance the same day, but he was handcuffed and he was perp walked and humiliated. Then his sentencing, he pleaded guilty, and his sentencing was set for 2025. And then Trump came in and pardoned everybody, included him. So he did not, actually, no, I'm sorry, I'm lying. He did not plead guilty. His bench trial, no. He did plead guilty. Sorry about that. He did plead guilty to 4 misdemeanor counts. And on the day that the trial was set to begin, I don't know why I wrote this wrong, if it was a sentencing, because they have to do a pre-sentence investigation. He was pardoned by President Trump. I don't know if I'm correcting here. I don't know if he was going to go to trial or if he had pled guilty. But either way, he was pardoned by President Trump, and he should have never been accused, because he was just doing journalistic work there. So, and here's how you see the targeting by the CIA criminals, okay? Approximately 1,575 people were charged in total relating to January 6th. But of those, only like 150 were charged in 2024. So that tells you that, there was a purpose behind his targeting. He published his major pipe bomb investigation on November 8th, 2025, in an article for the Blaze News. It's titled something, Former Capitol Police Officer, a Forensic Match for January 6th Pipe Bomber. And he alleged that the gate analysis had a 94 to 98% match between the U.S. former Capitol Police officer, who now happens to be a CIA police officer in the CIA grounds. Okay, so as you many have known, the FBI has accused an autistic man, a 30-year-old autistic man, that has the mental capacity of a 16-year-old and likes My Little Pony, has a 12 size foot shoe size, whatever. And that doesn't match the videos of the pipe bomber, who has a smaller foot. So Mr. Baker had, the Sunday before Christmas, he had severe heart failure and almost died. Does it sound familiar? Yes, it does. Yeah. So on April 1st, he was fired from the Blaze. He was fired. And he posted this. Okay. And now he says that now that he doesn't have the muzzle that he had because of working at the Blaze, that the attorneys were not letting him talk. Well, now he's going to freely talk because he wants to say the truth. And he says, we retracted nothing, and nothing that I have published has been debunked. He really stands for the fact that the accused man is not the correct defendant. He also went into a podcast on March 4th and talked about directed energy weapons being used on Americans. So this is good that he's no longer subject to a gag order. And he says that announcements will be coming soon. He's clearly targeted, and I wish him the best. I really hope he becomes healthy again, because we need people like him. He's a very courageous man. And we really need people like him. Anyway, finally, guess who got fired? I guess you all saw it today. Pam Bondi got fired. And I say from bad to worse because she was supposedly temporarily substituted by Todd Blanche. This is a picture that was today in the on social media of Bondi's picture on the garbage of DOJ. And Mr. Blanche here, who is famous for not, first of all, he's famous for dismantling the weaponization working group, where Ed Martin was trying to do something with a staff of one because he didn't give him any. He was literally running the show. While Pam Bondi was in Fox News, this is the guy that was handling everything. He's the guy responsible for reducing from a felony to a misdemeanor the corruption charges of the former governor of Puerto Rico, who eventually Trump pardoned. So several reports indicated that Bondi's firing was imminent after months of prolonged scrutiny, particularly over her mishandling of the Epstein files, which quickly became an Achilles heel for the administration. Some people say that Trump has in mind EPA's administrator Lee Zeldin, who is a vet, to substitute her. The victims of government weaponization, prepare that he would choose somebody like Matt Gaetz or other people that have demonstrated a commitment to ending government weaponization, which Todd Blanche not only does not care about, but perpetuates, because we know that Pam Bondi has her own little list of enemies of DOJ. And what he says is, oh, I'm just going to fight fraud. He's just going to go after the Somalis and doesn't care about the weaponization of the government. He doesn't care about the victimization of the J6ers. And I know that what I'm saying is good because the criminals are really attacking my kidneys. So bring it on, criminals. It's okay. According to multiple current officials, Todd Blanche was the main roadblock holding up prosecutions of former Biden officials, state-level politicians, and Antifa terrorists. Todd Blanche personally, like I told you, shut down the weaponization task force. He shut down the investigation into the lawfare that bankrupted InfoWars. Let me remind you of what happened here. Remember that guy that was captured in a covert video saying, we just gave it a nudge, referring to how they destroyed Alex Jones? Well, Ed Martin had sent a letter asking about that. And this guy, Todd Blanche, stopped it all. So that just tells you this is not good news, and we really have to get active on that. Anyways, the only positive thing I can say about Miss Bondi is that she did get to sign. Let's give her a little credit. She did get to sign a consent decree that for the next 10 years in the Missouri versus Biden case, I remember it's when this was when the pandemic was happening and they were silencing everybody in social media. Facebook admitted to it, Twitter admitted to it, everybody admitted to canceling the accounts of people that dared say anything against the jab or COVID or the lockdowns or whatever. That's how a lot of people got targeted because they were opposing COVID mandates. Well, they signed this consent decree, and supposedly it's a 10-year permanent injunction that prohibits the Surgeon General, the CDC, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency from threatening social media platforms with regulatory consequences unless those platforms suppress constitutionally protected American speech. The government agreed in this document that they had done that they pressured platforms to silence Americans. They admitted to their crimes. Not alleged, not argued. They admitted it. However, they didn't touch the part of the government that they did run a censorship operation, but they left untouched a part of the censorship operation that there is a federal lawsuit currently pending in the Middle District of Florida, Finn versus Global Engagement Center, to determine and answer not just for the plaintiffs in that case, but every American who has ever typed something that the government might prefer they hadn't. It happened to Sager G. A London NGO published a report. The CEO launders and weaponizes the report against Americans in Parliament, and then they asked to arrest this guy. They wanted to arrest an American that made a publication here. The British asked to have him arrested. So the consent decree prohibits the agencies from directly threatening platforms, but it left this part unanswered. Now, Enrique Tarrio said it best. What we have left right now at the DOJ is pipe bomber obstruction and Seth Rich obstruction, because there is a wonderful attorney, Ty Clavenger, in Dallas, who has been fighting to obtain the image on the Seth Rich laptop. And the FBI has been fighting it tooth and nail. This is the case where the former FOIA director of the FBI was forced into retirement, or God knows where they have him pushing papers. But this is the case. This is the attorney accomplished this because they were going to issue an order of contempt of court against him. And so now the DOJ, Todd Blanche and Pambondi TOJ continue to perpetuate that stonewalling that was initiated in the Biden regime. So it just doesn't change. It's still the same. And Enrique Tarrio calls it really good because he said that there's no need for secrecy in the laptop of a man that was supposedly killed in a random robbery. Why are you hiding it? This is a man, remember, that supposedly sent Julian Assange the evidence regarding the corruption at the DNC. And this, that's why it's so important. And it just tells you, why are they protecting his laptop contents? Why are they protecting the prior administration? Well, now I'm going to show you, let me give me a little patience here. I'm going to show you a really good video that I just saw it today. I didn't know that this was happening. But Kid Rock, for those of you that know who he is, he put this today in so it turns out that, so I'm not an expert, but I know this is like one of those really expensive Black Hawk helicopters in front of his house. I am absolutely certain he's targeted. And he thinks that they are like honoring him. He doesn't cross it. This happened to me all the time. It didn't cross my mind when I got I didn't think they were honoring me, but when I got all the helicopters, and when you get all the helicopters, they're not. Well, now we know it's harassment, and it's the illegal use of government property for illegal purposes. Back then in Puerto Rico, I didn't know. I was in La La Land like him. But look what Trump said when they asked him about it. Trump said that it might not be legal if they're just playing around. Let me show you this. Hold on. I just don't. These helicopters defense. Let's see if you can hear it. These helicopters defense suspended. What do you think of that?
Well, it depends. Are they? Well, they probably shouldn't have been doing it. Yes, you're not supposed to be playing games, right? But I'd take a look at it. They like Kid Rock. I like Kid Rock. Maybe they were trying to defend him. I don't know.
There you have it. You see, it's illegal. They're not supposed to be playing games with a Black Hawk helicopter in front of his house. The hell is that? Who sent them? I don't know. Anyways, finally, I know it's illegal, but he caught it on video. So, those people should be disciplined, the ones that were doing it. Now, last week, you may remember that I brought to your attention that I really believe that President Trump is the victim of mind control and directed energy weapons. I've shown you the pictures and the swelling in his ankles and the burn in the back of his neck. And the way he behaves is not the person that we're used to seeing. Now, I just have a short clip here because Alex Jones, he doesn't understand, or maybe he doesn't want to call a spade, but look at what he
swell up 3 times the size they were before. That means heart failure.
Hold on.
Ankles swell up 3 times the size they were before. That means heart failure. And he does look sick. And he does babble and, sound like the brain's not doing too hot.
There you have it. Well, I told you last week, the brain, and those of us that are victims of mind control, we know we can recognize the symptoms. And he just has no clue that that's what's happening to him. And that's why I want to make it very clear. This is my personal opinion. It's that I think that this all started 3 months ago. And I think that the entire war operation is nothing but a means to take the attention away from the Epstein files. Those of you that never miss my show know, the bait stamped documents from 1999 to 2001 were withheld. They were not produced in the Epstein files. That's when they were talking about 9/11, about the insurance that was it Lutnick for Canton Fitzgerald, and the other guy that Sterling, that he got for the World Trade Center. I mean, the whole psyop of, and I'm sure that, you know, the email exchange regarding the insurance payments, the dead people, the entire psyops, it's all there. The evidence is there. Many of you that are on social media, you are seeing every day there's a new video of how there wasn't a second plane, there was no plane in the Pentagon. This was all a creation to justify, among other things, the creation of the program that victimizes innocent people and uses to traffic them, torture them, and everything else that you know. So that's just my opinion. And we just, like I said last week, we need to pray for our president. And if you want to call the White House May Tuesday through Thursday from 11 to 3 and say, President Trump is the victim of mind control, and it's the criminals at the CIA doing it, please feel free to do so. Somebody needs to tell him. He is surrounded by people that are not telling him. Anyways, FISA has not passed yet, and I am going to put again. I'm gonna play you a really great video that our volunteer Sean prepared, and also I'm going to put again the link for you, for those of you that have not written to your congressperson. You can't wait anymore. You can't wait anymore. You have to do it. You have to do it today. So I'm going to put it in the chat.
Hello, everyone. Here's Analog Anna coming to you after a full day of work. Now, I need to ask you to do something that doesn't take much time, but makes a huge difference. We need for you to call your senators, your 2 senators, and your representative, and demand that they do not approve the renewal of FISA Section 702. This is crucial to end your gang stalking. Without the communications that they illegally access, without an Article 3 court warrant, they cannot gang stalk you so easily because they cannot intercept your texts, your emails, and listen to your conversations. So please do it for a free tomorrow. Call and write to your senators and your representatives. The deadline is April 20th. But Deep State Mike Johnson is promising to get it passed a week before the 20th of April. So we need you to not think about it and do it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. You're just so amazing. It just makes me cry because it makes me so emotional. Everybody, those of you that have not written, that I just put in the chat, it is such an easy tool to use. And then they even draft it for you, what you have to write, but then you can add, I am a victim of government weaponization. I am one of those people that the FBI has consistently renewed a FISA warrant on me without probable cause. And they continue to illegally spy on me in violation of the 4th Amendment. Do not renew Section 702 without imposing a warrant requirement on U.S. persons. Please, I need you to send that, because they were going to ram it through Congress, but then all of a sudden they got a little pushback, and we can do this. We are a numerous community. We can do this. You personalize. Don't swear. Don't put bad words in there. Just put, a heartfelt add to what's in there and say, why don't you bother to inquire who are the real victims of FISA 702? Because they have never bothered to inquire on that. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to bring to your attention is that, as was stated in the Targeted Justice newsletter, here, yeah. This, I'm sorry, I forgot about this. The war is a war to distract. Do not demand to see the Epstein files, because therein lies the exposure that we need. Remember, people all of a sudden stopped calling TIs crazy when they saw that it was contained in the Epstein files. And there's a lot more information in there that needs to be exposed. And I think that's what, I really think they started a war because they didn't want this program exposed. It wasn't about the victims. The victims already got paid, many of them. It wasn't about the victims. Yeah, they want to know who are the criminals, who are the rapists, who are the pedophiles. That's true. But I think that the reason why the CIA mind-controlled Trump to start this war, because I think it's absolute mind control, this is my personal opinion, is because they want to continue hiding, because this program was going to be exposed if they show the next one. Now, this is what I want to show you about the hacking. Even Nick Shirley got hacked, and this is the tactic they use. Look at these two here. The tactic is, oh, hey, please, I need a quick favor. No favor. Because they are sent from accounts that you know, not from strangers, people that you know, whose accounts have already been hacked and they sometimes don't even know. I need a quick favor, please. I'm in the running to co-host a major podcast event with Spotify and Google. It'd mean a lot if you could drop a vote for me. And of course, you're so nice. You're like, yeah, how am I not going to do this for a fellow TI? It's a setup. Do not fall for it. And please, tell everybody that you know about it, because maybe you know, but then your best friend doesn't know. But now you know that even from your best friend, you get this text, this DM, you are not going to click on it. Okay. Now, finally, Privacy Act request. For those of you that have not sent it, I cannot emphasize how important this is. This is the time where the prohibited access files have already been exposed by Chuck Grassley, where the nomination form of somebody in handling code 3 or 4, Miss Christine Crowley, where her nomination form was publicized. Remember, this is the person that is opening the door for us, because if they gave it to her, they have to give it to us. We, as non-investigative subjects, have the right to obtain those documents. This is the time. Please don't delay. Send it by priority mail, tracked mail, and make sure you demand to see, examine your files, because what the Privacy Act gives you is a right to examine and correct any incorrect information about you in the agency files. The FBI does not get to determine what files they look for. When you are getting responses, they're saying, we looked in the central record systems and didn't find anything, of course, because they're not going to find anything of their criminality in there. It's all buried in the Sentinel prohibited access. So that's what you have to write your appeal back saying, no, I told you, I demanded that you look in the prohibited access files. You do not get a pass to determine where you look for my information, my records in your agency, even if they're illegal records. So please get on that, because this is an important movement that we're doing for freedom. Okay. And finally, we are I'm going to be doing in Spanish also, because I already calculated the time zones in Spanish. For the meditation, please, if you could help us, if we could have people to help us remind people. I know that Jim, thank you, Jim, you're doing it. I really thank you. At 11:57 Eastern Time, so that then the rest of the people start in the 5-minute conscious intention, saying, targeting program is over. Targeting program is over. I am free now. Whatever is good for you, or even just a little 5-minute prayer. And finally, I want to give a shout out to Larissa from Arizona. Larissa, I got your letter. Let me get this out of here. Larissa, I got your letter, and I want to thank you. And I can only say, stay strong. I have to say to everybody out there, we know that the targeting has gone up on everybody. They have done lawfare to everyone, taken everything we own. I know that. We can only pray, and we can only fight back. And that's exactly what we're doing. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm not leaving DC until we're free. And I am counting on you to support this effort, because it's the only way I can do it. If I get a job, then I'm not going to be fighting for you all, because then I would have to, how it would be. I would have to work 100 hours a week and not have a single day or a single moment to fight for this cause. It's something I could technically do, but it's not what I want to do, because then I cannot do what I'm doing. Much of which I cannot tell you, because as you know, the criminals, some of the little victories I've had is because they don't see it coming. Like, they don't see that I'm doing this, I'm going this way, I'm doing that, and even though, they do remote neural monitoring, but it's the locals, the ones that sometimes present the worst kind of obstacles. So thank you, Larissa, for your support. And I really pray that you find the strength, and always know that God is never abandoning us, even in the worst moments. Like I have told you, and those of you that have heard it before, sometimes He has allowed us to get to the border of an abyss where we think we're going to fall, only to grab us by the back of our shirt and tell us, only reason I brought you all the way here is because I wanted you to know I will never abandon you. And so thank you so much. And thank you for everybody that has been, Percy Lee also, that have been writing. Let me check. I don't think I have any questions here. They're not going to get away with it. Here's the thing. Like the Lighthouse tells me, there's a million ways this can get, we have that Freemason trial over there. We have, there's a lot of things that are getting exposed. And thank you for the blessings. Thank you for the prayers. They are not only welcome and appreciated, but very much necessary, because the devil is very angry that he is getting exposed, and his soldiers. And we are on the other side. We're on the good side of history. We are here as God's soldiers doing God's work. So we are protected. We have the full armor of protection. Okay. The letter draft, the FISA letter draft, you can find it in targetedjustice.com/legal. It's the first tab there. And there's also a sample appeal that you can sort of copy and use. The most important thing in your appeal is the following. The FBI criminals continue to insist that they only look in the central record systems because they decide. Well, guess what? The Privacy Act does not give them that authority. They have an obligation to look in all of agency records. And now that we have the evidence of the prohibited access and Christine Crowder's files, they cannot deny them. They have an obligation to produce them. We have them cornered, and it's wonderful. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Sorry for taking so long, and thank you for being here. I have one invasive on your screen. I don't know what you're talking about an invasive image. What is that? An invasive image? Do you have some evidence collected? I'm guessing. Look, let me, Melissa, let me just tell you something. Evidence is a term of things that can be presented in a court of law. For example, I could present my little list of what I did. Oh, yeah, Ms. Toledo, what did you do on April the 3rd? And then I say, well, I had a diary where I recorded everything. Okay, and then the attorney will hand me over. Okay, can you read can you tell me what you're looking at? Yeah, I'm looking at mine and whatever. Okay, and then after I say, okay, so what does that contain? Oh, well, that's the list of the things I did. Okay, so then my attorney will go, okay, can this be admitted into evidence? But of course, it has been already shown to the other party. Now, when it comes to scientific evidence, that's different. I cannot testify about scientific evidence because I'm not a scientist. But only people with PhDs can be admitted to a court of law. Let's say a medical doctor can testify about an X-ray. So evidence, as you call it, can only enter into a court of law by a person who is an expert, who meets the standard that in a case called the Dobert case by the Supreme Court of the United States, that establishes the parameters in order for a person to sit on in a witness chair as an expert. They go through what is called a voir dire, which is an interrogation by the attorney to determine if the person is qualified as an expert or not. And I hope that thank you, Kimberly. I love you. Thank you so much. I can't wait to hug you. So I hope that answers your question about evidence. Not everything can be evidence submitted in a court of law. Now, you asked me about what evidence I keep. I have tons of photographs. I have tons of text messages, emails. I have things very clear in my mind of what happened when. Journaling is the best evidence you can keep. I am telling you, I have told you many times, because that is what you can testify about. You can testify about how at 8 p.m. you started having this horrific pains, and they lasted for this long. The rest will come in the form of expert testimony one day. But you can only create, log the evidence of your experience. And I really, really urge you to do so. For example, when we get the evidence, the evidence from the FBI, the certified, when we get to access, all the FISA 702 records are going to be there. And you can ask for them to give you a certified copy of it. They can no longer hide this anymore because they're going to be there. And then that is actual evidence that a court of law can take judicial notice of if it's certified by an agency. I hope this makes sense to you, but I haven't, I know we all want answers, but the best way for anyone is to just have X-rays, CT scans. I know that the doctors are colluding with the criminals. I know that. But I still have my CT scans and ultrasounds are really good, and X-rays, and it's all going to come out. I have a really perfect X-ray of my hip area that shows tons of implants there. And so one day that's the way to prove it. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. And happy Easter to those of you that celebrate Easter. And remember that we have to start practicing forgiveness. I'm not saying I'm a master of it. On the contrary, I have a lot to forgive, a lot of people to forgive, because I was really good to a lot of people and they all betrayed me, starting with my family and my friends. So I have to get on the habit of practicing forgiveness. Anyways, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I hope you support my continued mission. I'm staying here in DC indefinitely until we're free. And thank you for those of you, my subscribers in Substack. Thank you so much. I write with a lot of love and always with the intention of helping others. Thank you. Have a good night.